Hi guys, welcome to our third session on lead generation for virtual assistants. And today, I'm going to tell you about some lead generation techniques by going through following topics: how to write effective email and LinkedIn outreach messages, how to prepare for cold calls, how to make effective cold calls, how to handle objections and rejections, and what is the role of a lead generator. So during last session, we talked about collecting a contact database of potential clients. And the next step is, well, what to do with the database and the contact information we have in it. So you can send text messages on LinkedIn, you can send emails to these people, or you can call them. So let's take a look at some of the email outreach strategies. And there are a few tips on how to write effective email outreach messages. First of all, craft a captivating subject line. This is your first impression. When this subject line attracts enough attention, there are more possibilities that a recipient will open an email. Then always personalize your greetings by addressing the recipient by their name when it is possible. It shows that you have paid attention to the company, to the person, and actually adds a human touch. State your purpose clearly, so make it evident while you're reaching out, and at the same time provide value by explaining how the recipient will benefit from your email. That's the main part that actually attracts attention of a person. You want to offer a solution to their problem, some valuable information, probably an opportunity that will benefit everyone. So that's the reason why a person would be interested in proceeding in communication with you. Customize the message. So try avoiding any generic templates that can make the recipient feel like they are just another number on some big list. So tailor the email to each recipient. And use a clear and concise language. So also, it's good to create a compelling body, as with any email. So an email would be easy to read. It will be easy to understand what you're trying to say. For example, you can try using bullet points, lists, short paragraphs, and etc. Include a clear call to action. So specify what you want the recipient to do next. For example, would you like to schedule a call, probably reply, or any other action? And offer multiple contact point options. So make it easy for the recipient to respond. You can include your email, your phone number, your social media profiles, if it's relevant. Like, provide the recipient with several opportunities to contact you back. So the main keys to successful email outreach are to provide value, because like I've said, it's the main thing that will attract attention and make the recipient communicate with you further. Personalization, because it makes them feel like you're really interested in them. And clear call to action. So there won't be any misunderstandings what you are supposed to do next. So let's take a look at the example. I won't read the whole email out loud. You can read it now, or you can return it later when you will receive the presentation, but let's just pay attention to some of the main points here. So our subject is collaboration opportunity for your fitness blog. Okay, it attracts attention. It provides some collaboration opportunity, which means some benefit, some profit for a recipient. So see, we address the recipient by name, and then we introduce ourselves, because it's also important to state clearly who you are and what you want. You explain, for example, there is a phrase, I've been a fan of your blog. So you explain why you're reaching out, how you found information about this person. And it actually makes a better impression, because you're not just reaching out of the blue. You've been a fan and you want to share your and you want to share something interesting with that person. So that's why you state that you want to reach out to discuss a potential collaboration opportunity. So then you describe your suggestion. So for example, that you developed a 4-week fitness challenge to help the audience jumpstart their fitness journey. So then you ask a person for some feedback, like, please let me know if you're interested, and actually ask them what they would like to do next, like schedule a brief call to discuss the details. Probably they would like to ask you for more information first. That's also an option. And of course, you provide your contact information, like feel free to reach out at email or phone number. And in the end, you leave your name, your title, your blog or your company name, and again, your contact information. If you don't receive a response after reasonable time, you can always send a polite follow-up email. The reason why you don't receive a response isn't always that a recipient isn't interested at all. Sometimes people receive too many emails, sometimes they're busy and they just miss an email from you. So by sending a follow-up, you just remind them that you have sent some interesting information that they might have missed. So in a professional context, waiting from 5 to 7 business days before sending a follow-up is generally a good guideline. So if you haven't received a response, you can write another email. So let's take a look at some simple example of a follow-up email. So again, you personalize email by addressing the recipient by name and adding lines like, I hope this email finds you well. Then you remind about a previous message, that there was some message where you described some suggestion from you. The follow-up is usually shorter than a main email because it's more of a reminder than the information that was in the main email, but you can still quickly recap what was in the previous email. But again, usually there are less details about what you would like to suggest. It's nice to mention that you of course understand that people are busy and there are different priorities and you respect the time of the person that will read that email. But again, it's nice to point out that you will also appreciate the consideration and some feedback. So the first follow-up can be sent after 5-7 business days. So there you can express your interest and again, briefly summarize some key points of your initial message. There are also second follow-ups. They're optional and you can send them after the first follow-up if you still don't receive an answer. Again, they're usually even shorter and you may gently mention previous messages and ask, for example, when it would be convenient for a recipient to proceed with some communication. And in some rare cases, you can also send the third follow-up. So keep it really brief, respectful, focus on the key benefits and why it's in the recipient interest to engage with you. So you can send the third follow-up if you feel that this lead can be really potential, really interesting for your client, for your company, and you really want to start a conversation with them. Now let's take a look at some of LinkedIn outreach strategies. So there are some tips on how to write effective LinkedIn outreach messages. Again, personalize the message. Address the recipient by their first name because it's a sign that you're interested. Also state your purpose clearly, make it evident while you're reaching out. Establish common ground. Probably there are some mutual connections, interests, groups you both follow. Provide context. So explain how you came across the recipient's profile. Again, probably you saw some publication that was really interesting for you, or you both follow some blog or company's profile, and you think that your suggestion, your services might be interesting to the recipient. And highlight your value proposition. So again, briefly explain why the person should be interested in your suggestion, why they should spend time reading your message, and why they should start a conversation with you. And again, personalize your call to action. So clearly state what are the options that the recipient have, for example, texting you back, scheduling a brief call, well, anything that will be good for you. Let's take a look at the example of a connection request. And honestly, this connection request is too big because on LinkedIn, the connection request is limited to 300 symbols. And that's another difficulty, that's probably the most difficult part of writing a connection request for LinkedIn, because you actually have to explain why you are interested in that person, why that person should be interested in you, and you should fit it all in the 300 symbols. But again, there are some points that you can mention that you have come across the profile of a person, and for example, you were really impressed by their experience in some topic, and you would like to connect with this person because you also share this interest, and you would like to create a network with people with this interest. Then, if the person accepts your invitation to connect, you can start a conversation with them. So let's take a look at the example of the first messages. They are not limited, so you have more possibilities, but also remember that the shorter messages are better, because LinkedIn is social media, and when people don't have to scroll through information through too many words, there are more chances that they will read the messages that you send to them. But as an example, you have a nice first message. It's not too big, it's not too short, so there is all the necessary information, but at the same time, it will be easy to read. It's always nice to thank the person for accepting your invitation to connect, because, well, they weren't obliged to, and explain what you're looking forward. Probably you would like also to mention your project or what would be interested to the recipient of your message, and actually provide some opportunities for connecting you back, like, would you like to receive more information? Would you like to schedule a brief call or even a virtual coffee chat to exchange some ideas or listen to your suggestion? Also, as with emails, you can set follow-ups on LinkedIn. For example, you can ask them if they had a chance to review your previous message. Here you can also ask them as a possibility if they have enough time, or probably they would like to postpone this conversation when it would be more convenient for them. Again, you can ask them for their next steps, like calling, texting, more information, and etc. So there are some general guidelines for follow-up messages. So as we have already discussed, after your initial outreach or connection request or first message, it's common to send one polite follow-up within 5-7 business days. Then you have an optional second follow-up that should be concise and may gently mention your previous messages, but on LinkedIn, it's not that relevant because it's really easy for a person to see all your previous messages. And the third follow-up is possible, but rare. Again, if you really feel that this lead might really benefit you, your company, your client, it's a high-value prospect or strategic connection, you can always send a third follow-up. Our next topic is cold calling. So cold calling is a method of a direct marketing and sales in which a salesperson or a lead generator contacts potential customers or leads who have not expressed prior interest in the product or service being offered. So that's why it's called cold calling, because there is no prior relationship or warm introduction to the person that you would like to call. They don't know you, they don't know about your company, your product, your services, and you have to convince them that what you offer actually has some value to them. There are some key characteristics of cold calling. As I have mentioned, there is no prior relationship. These people don't know you, you don't know them, so it really adds some difficulty. Sales pitch. So the purpose of a cold call is to present a sales pitch, introduce some product, make people interested in your product or service. And of course, initial contact. The goal of a cold call is to initiate the first contact with a potential customer. Most likely, if the person becomes interested in what you're offering, you will find another way to communicate, probably via email or social media. But the cold call is an initial contact, the first contact between you and the client, the potential client, more like an introduction of a product. Cold calling is a prospecting technique. So you also identify potential leads, and you can find out if they can become probably clients of the company. So you have a list, you don't know for sure who on this list will be really interested in your product. So with cold calling, you identify that. Cold calling can be really challenging, as it often involves reaching out to individuals who may not be polite or receptive, or who may be uninterested. So handling objections and rejections is a common part of the process, and you should prepare for it. And cold calls may be followed up with additional communication. Again, it mostly depends on a potential lead, but you can send them, if there is such possibility, emails, or probably messages on social media if they're interested. You can schedule up a follow-up call, and etc. So now let's take a look at some tips on how to prepare for cold calls effectively. First of all, develop a script. So create some script that outlines the key points that you would like to cover during the call. It's important so it will be easier for you not to forget some important details of what you really would like to tell the potential lead. Of course, you should be also flexible and conversational, and you should be able to quickly adapt to the recipient of your call. But again, script can help you not to forget something important. Practice your pitch. So practice delivering your pitch confidently. You should make a person become interested in what you're saying. And of course, you should attract their attention. Prepare answers to common questions. Most likely, it will come with some experience, but even before that, you can anticipate the common questions and objections you might encounter, and you can prepare for them. So again, try to include them like in a separate script with possible questions or objections and your possible answers. Gain the necessary tools. So for example, it's nice to have a reliable phone system or some software, any relevant materials or resources that might be helpful during the call. Set clear goals. So define what you're looking for. Are you looking for scheduling a follow-up meeting? Would you like to provide information or just qualify a lead? It can help you to stay focused as well as the script. Another important tip is always choose the right time. Beware of the time difference. So avoid calling during lunch breaks or at the end of the day when people aren't really interested in additional work. But again, the time difference is really important because that might be a morning in your country, but when you're calling a person, it might be a late night for them. So they definitely wouldn't be interested in a cold call now, and most likely they wouldn't be interested in any cold calls from you later. So always mind that. Maintain a positive mindset. A positive attitude can really help you in your job and can make a significant difference in your success. Cold calling can be challenging, so approach each call with a can-do attitude. And of course, set realistic expectations. Do not expect that every cold call will result in a lead or sale. So it's important to understand that the rejection is a part of the process. So try to stay positive and don't be discouraged by uninterested leads. And of course, take breaks. Cold calling can be mentally draining. So take short breaks to let yourself take a little rest. So after each call, you can also take a moment to evaluate what worked and what didn't. And of course, you should use this feedback to adopt your script, your approach, probably your answers to some objections or questions. So be flexible and use both success parts and those parts that weren't so successful. So how to create a cold call script? Well, first of all, start with introduction, actually a polite and friendly greeting. Always identify yourself and your company. Keep it brief and professional. Then establish common ground or connection if possible. Mention something relevant about the prospect or their company. So build a rapport. Always state the purpose. So it should be clear for the recipient of your call what the purpose of your suggestion. Why are you calling them? And of course, provide a concise elevator pitch about your product or service. Focus the main benefits. Try to keep it brief because people wouldn't like to spend too much time listening to some detailed description of the product or service. So focus on the main benefits and focus what problems of the recipient of the call this product or service can solve. So why they should pay attention to your proposal. Ask open-ended questions. So encourage engagement. These questions prompt the prospect to provide more information and make them to interact with you. Of course, address objections. So you can prepare responses to some most common objections, but be ready to be flexible during the call. Highlight the key benefits and features of your product or service. So explain how it specifically can help the recipient of your call with some of their problems. And of course, mention any success stories or some important clients who have benefited from the product or service, because it's always good to create a reputation. So if the prospects show interest, transition into your call to action. For example, you can schedule a follow-up call or a meeting. You can send more information if they would like to provide you with some contact information or any other desired outcome. If the prospect is not interested or raises objections, prepare yourself to address these objections. Of course, with empathy, because you shouldn't push too much, but you also should be professional. Clear outline the next steps for both you and the prospect. So if you have reached some common ground, what should they expect after the call? A message from you, another call, meeting. And of course, be polite and thank the person you just talked to for their time. So practice. Practice is really important for the success of cold calling. So practice your script until you're comfortable with it. Practice during the calls. Use your feedback to improve yourself and your approaches. And of course, with enough practice, you will sound confident and natural during the call. So let's take a look at the example of a cold call script for a lead generator working with an event organizer in Tokyo. So you start with introduction. Good morning or good afternoon. Then you introduce yourself and you introduce your company. And of course, you should be polite. So I hope you're doing well today. May I have a moment of your time? Then build rapport. I noticed that your company has a strong presence in the Tokyo events market, and I wanted to connect with you to explore potential collaboration opportunities. So again, you explain why you're interested in the company, in the person, and you also explain what you would like to suggest. State the purpose. So you specialize in helping event organizers to plan and execute successful events in Tokyo. Mention that, for example, our services cover a wide range of event types from corporate conferences to social gatherings and more. So that's a value you can provide to the company of the person you are calling. Of course, then comes your elevator pitch. We have a dedicated team of experts in Tokyo who can handle all aspects of event planning, from venue selection and logistics to catering and entertainment. So that's why the person might become interested in your proposal. Ask open-ended questions. I'd love to learn more about your upcoming events and discuss how we might be able to assist. Can you tell me about any specific events you're currently planning or any challenges you're facing in event organization. So for example, this question might initiate a two-sided conversation, a dialogue between you and the person, so they would be more engaged and actually interested. Of course, address objections. So for example, I understand that you might have your own in-house team for event planning. However, many of our clients find value in our local expertise and industry connection in Tokyo. Benefits and features. For example, working with us means tapping into our extensive network of vendors and resources in Tokyo. So you not only provide some value with your services, but you can also provide something additional. You can provide better services, faster services, and etc. Then you can provide some social proof. So for example, we've had the privilege of working with some other companies. It's always better when these companies are well known and recognizable. Then you close call by proposing to schedule a call to discuss some specific needs and how your services can benefit the events. For example, are you available for a call later this week? Or can I send you an additional information? Would you like to receive an additional information? Objection handling usually comes in the end or in the beginning, but you should prepare for that. So if you have any concerns or questions, please feel free to share them, and I'll do my best to address them. Next steps, you can provide several possibilities for recipients, like we can set up a call at the times that works best for you, or I can send you an email with some available slots. Probably let's connect on LinkedIn and I could send you the main information here. And of course, closing statement. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. You can also add that you are looking forward to the possibility of working together to make their events a resounding success. So I've talked a lot about handling objections. So let's take a look at some tips how you can do it. So first of all, listen actively. Do not interrupt a person. You should listen and truly understand what their concerns are. Also, you should be polite. Of course, because it's create a positive attitude and make you look more professional. Begin your response by acknowledging the prospect objection and expressing empathy. You understand that that might become a problem, that might become a difficulty, but you validate their viewpoint, you pay attention to their needs, and you can actually provide a better solution despite their doubts. If the objection isn't really clear, politely ask the prospect to provide more information or context. So it would be more convenient for you than to handle this objection. And of course, respond with information. Provide a well thought on response and directly address the objection. It's always nice to use some stories or examples or case studies to demonstrate how your product or service was helpful to other businesses and how would the recipient of your call and their company benefit from your product or service. And it's also a nice way to handle objections proactively. So if you know what objections are really common during cold calling, you can address them during your pitch. So this can minimize objections during the conversation because the person will hear all the necessary important information during your speech. Ask follow-up questions. That will encourage further discussion. You can better understand the reason for an objection of a person. You can identify a solution, etc. And of course, offer alternatives. If your initial response doesn't resolve the objection, consider offering alternative solutions or approaches that align with the prospect needs. So let's take a look at the examples of some of the common objections and how you can handle them. So price objection, really common thing. So your product is too expensive, we can't afford it, etc., etc. So of course, you can respond that you understand. It's always a concern, the price, the money always can be difficult, but you can explain the value that the person gets with your product. For example, the product can help them save major sums of money or generate more benefit. You can also offer several payment options or probably several payment plans to make it more affordable. Timing objection. I'm not ready to commit right now. So in that case, you should understand the lead's timeline. For example, probably they aren't ready to look at new proposals. They have a busy month, they have a busy week. That happens. So you can ask, for example, when would be the right time to reach out to you again? If they're interested in your product, but they don't have time, they might consider another option. And for example, you can schedule another call sometime later. Need objection. I don't see how this product is relevant to my business. Well, of course, you should explain the relevance of your product. For example, many clients initially had similar doubts, but after seeing how a product, and here provide a specific solution, probably it wasn't really clear, they found it highly valuable. Can we explore your specific challenges? And I can show you how we can address them. Competitors' objection. I'm already working with another company. So, of course, it's a really nice way to start with some phrase like, it's great to know you're proactive about your service or product. Well, it's not the best idea to criticize the competitors from the beginning, but you can mention what the lead can get with your solution or your product. So probably you can ask questions like, if the lead is satisfied with the quality of the product or service, probably they lack some important features. Probably they would like something additionally. Probably you can provide a better value. Trust objection. I'm not sure I can trust your company. Well, the best way to handle this objection is to provide more information about your company. So, for example, that you've been in business for many years and have served different well-recognizable clients. So you can offer some guarantees or customer support to prove that you wouldn't abandon the client out of nowhere. So you can ask here for some contact information. So would you like to receive some references or more information, or probably a link to the website or blog or page in social media? Budget objection. Our budget is tight right now. So the nice way here is to ask about some budget constraints. Your goal is to work within the budget of the client. And for example, if your company is flexible with different payment options, you can suggest a lead to tailor a solution that will meet their need without breaking their bank. And the rejection, that I'm not interested and I won't be in the future. Well, the thing is, you can't do a lot here. The person isn't interested, they aren't interested in the product and service, they aren't interested in further conversation. So the best way here is to thank them for the conversation, for their time, and tell them that if they need change or they encounter any challenges in the future, they can always contact you, and you always will be happy to help them. So what is the role of a lead generator? The main thing here is that a lead generator isn't typically responsible for closing sales. It plays a crucial role in the sales process by identifying and nurturing potential customers or leads. The primary goal of a lead generator is to generate and qualified lead and then connect them with the sales team. A lead generator does lead identification. So they use various strategies to identify potential customers who have shown interest in a product or service. Like I mentioned, these can involve researching, sourcing leads from databases, websites, social media, or any other available and possible sources. Once leads are identified, it's necessary to qualify them by assessing their level of interest, needs, and readiness to engage with a salesperson. It's also important to determine if a lead meets certain criteria such as budget, authority, need, and timeline. Practically, lead qualification is another task of a lead generator. So lead qualification is a critical step in the whole process. So ensuring that the leads actually are interested and have the potential to become customers. So there is so-called BUND framework, which means budget, authority, need, and timeline. Budget. So determine if the lead has the financial resources or budget available to purchase your product or service. You can look at the size of the company, and while communicating with the lead, you can always ask questions to understand how limited they are. For example, you can ask question, do you have a budget allocated for some product? What is the budget range you're working with for this project? Authority or decision-making processes. So you should always verify if the lead has the authority to make decisions. So in B2B settings, this often means identifying the decision maker or key stakeholders. The thing is that you can ask questions, but most likely you will get this information from a lead during your first steps of reaching out. Like, for example, most likely if they are not responsible for making such decision, they will tell you that, well, I'm not in the position to make such a decision, or I'm not responsible for these kind of tasks. Then I think here that you can always ask the lead to probably recommend someone from their company that is actually responsible and can make these decisions. Need. So you should understand the lead specific needs and whether your product or service aligns with those needs. Always focus on the pain points or challenges. Timeline. Determine the lead's timeline for making a decision. So, for example, you should ask if it's convenient for a lead to communicate with you right now and make the decisions. Probably it will be better for you to reach out to the lead later when they won't be so busy. And of course, you can ask questions such as, when do you plan to make a decision on this project? Is there a specific time frame you need to work with? Based on the responses to these questions, you can gauge the lead's qualification status. If a lead meets all or most of these criteria, they are typically considered sales qualified and ready for further engagement by the sales team. If they don't meet these criteria, well, they aren't ready, obviously, for further engagement by the sales team, but they may need further nurturing or follow-up until they become more qualified. Probably the lead is busy right now and they need more time. So you can reach out to them later, and then you can make sure that they are ready for further engagement. So let's take a look at the overview of what a lead generator does. First of all, a lead generator initiates contact. After qualification, they make initial contact with the leads through various methods, as we have discussed, like cold calling, email outreaching, LinkedIn outreaching, and any other possible ways. Nurturing, that means maintaining contact with leads over time. For example, You can share some content with them, answer their questions, provide information. And when a lead is deemed sales ready, the lead generator hands the lead over to the sales team. So this typically happens when a lead has expressed an interest in the product or service, meets all the criteria, and is ready to discuss purchasing options. So today you will receive a task. So for the client specified in the task in Google Classroom, you should write, first of all, an email script, then a script of LinkedIn messages, connection request, first message, and follow-up message, and a script for a cold call. All the details will be provided in Google Classroom. Thank you for your attention and see you next time. Bye.